Hello, citizens. My name is going to be kept classified for reasons stated. No shit, you're best buddies with the top dog of the CDC. But in the meanwhile, I'll just be known as Clancy. The story behind how I met him is quite regular. We met at the bar after watching a news rerun of the Ebola crisis that plagued Africa in 2014. I made a snarky remark about how it's all exacerbated and cliche, and after that he replied with one himself stating, "You aren't wrong there, pal. These guys are more screwed than a nun at a whorehouse." And after that short exchange, we clicked and the rest was history. You see, the last guy that went around just telling all of this business was found in a river. He thought that it was a good idea, since he was a part of the contagion unit, to confess that he didn't really feel well, only to be found floating with no cause of real death. Unfortunately, this led to a sort of civil divide within the CDC's headquarters, with a few that want to go against the grain and let the cat out of the bag, while the others want to follow the rules and hush anyone otherwise. And you can probably see which side Barry took, and why he's so adamant on telling me these sensitive topics. But unlike the last person, Barry is pretty damn smart and knows how to lead the dogs to a different direction if he so pleases. One step they are, 20 he is ahead. What made this so interesting is that I'm really just a regular guy. Not too regular, but regular enough so that when the bigwigs come snooping around, my ass won't smell too bad. If you catch my drift. I work as a trucker, delivering different shipments ranging from regular toiletries, sound equipment, and anything under the sun. I'm an owner-operator, but I've been getting offers from many companies, some illegal, some legal, to be under their wing and to work for them. The fruits were so good that it would keep me sustained for life, but I've chose to keep myself a bit more low-key. Not only for the sake of myself, but for my friend. To put a short description, Barry does not look like he would be the guy pulling the strings on an organization so huge. He's burly, has a beard, and really pulls off the lumberjack stereotype. I myself am pretty regular, save for my sarcasm that I pride myself on. Now that I'm done stroking my ego, back to the story. After the hearty laugh that we both had since we shared such scummy humor, we talked a bit about what it could be or what were the origins that would cause such an outbreak. Me, using my experiences in trucking, said that maybe somebody had transported tarnished or contaminated goods that were not properly cleaned yet. His answer kind of shook me a bit due to how brutally honest and the amount of conviction he had in his tone. We did it. I glanced at him, with not only a look of confusion but of a creepy nervousness that made its way from my tailbone to my neck. He said it so harshly, like he was on the site of the outbreak. And then he continued. We gave it to them. The whole bar was silent. It was silent before, but I didn't pay any attention until now, with only the tune of some unknown, stereotypical country singer crooning away about how his truck is his only love. The bartender was in the back and probably on a smoke break. As he said it, he looked at me with such a passion, but I could only see a fiery hatred in his eyes that pierced my very soul. But the hatred wasn't for me, I could tell. He then continued before I could speak up. We were tasked to go there to scout for strains of TB. Tuberculosis, if you don't know. We were looking at Gambia to collect since that was considered a hotspot. And due to our idiocy and pure ignorance, we caused what you see here. You see, when we first acquired Ebola, we didn't fully know the capacity of how bad a contagion would get. I was requested to test the strain on the people. I refused and said that we need to focus on finding the TB strain and how inhuman it truly is. I was vetoed by the higher-ups. I don't even know a rat's ass about it, and after getting torn into about my insubordination, they went on with the process. They set up a tent for free vaccinations near the TB area and got to work. I didn't participate, but I was sickened to my core. I considered just leaving, but the risk was too high. I just had to keep working. I was awestruck. My tongue was drying due to how long my mouth was agape listening to him in such description. He didn't sound like he was bullshitting, and I wasn't looking forward to trying to call him out on it. To even back himself up, he slid his CDC card that told of his credible position and status, including his name, date of birth, gender, age, race, and everything you would see on an ID card. That was back in 2014. To the present day, he finally retired. The healthy beard I once seen has now had a gray to it, and his eyes look more tired. But he still carried that passion and fire in his eyes like when I first met the man. He decided to give me his old files that he collected before he left, and informed me that there are far worse things out there that are being hidden from the public eye. I took his word and we stayed in contact occasionally. This was just the start to a mess of diseases, rashes, and illnesses that I will be going over soon. Stay tuned. You're probably wondering, on God's unholy land, as to why in the hell I am chosen to be the guy to hold these incredibly serious and classified documents about bugs that can destroy Earth in a moment's notice. Well, it's because I'm not the unlucky bastard, but we've been buds for so long that we trusted each other with damn near anything. We even managed to save his crumbling marriage one time by literally making an ass of myself while he went to hunt down for a new anniversary ring. Yeah, I was that kind of guy. And they're divorced now, but it's the thought that counts, and his lumberjack ass always refers to the story like it happened yesterday. Anyways, the moment you degenerates have all been waiting for. The amount of diseases found can make you cringe, retch, and probably question humanity in general, due to the fact on how messed up we truly are as human beings. I do have to say, the CDC sure does know how to make some seriously cool stuff, if they weren't so screwed up in the attic. Like, for God's sakes, they make Unit 371 look like extra time at recess for third graders. These guys indulge in the works: bioweaponry, DNA reconstruction, and alterations. Anything that involves a freaking vial and beakers, they have their noses poking in it. Speaking of all that spooky stuff, I need to keep my head low if I want to keep posting. Who knows, maybe one of these mods is a mole just waiting to sniff me out, and then I'll be the next new subject for a new superbug. Fun. Barry told me to keep my head low considering that I almost messed myself up the first time, and he can't bail me out at every beck and call. I heed his warning and I continue rummaging through. I have file cabinets upon file cabinets of shit that I can't even wrap my head around. To start, there is this project that was done back around August last year. It was called Project Firegaze, or the codename of the disease was called Firegaze. When I first saw the folder name, I got excited because I thought they finally invented laser vision, but boy was I wrong. Firegaze is like the mongoloid love child of the super strain of pink eye that riddled Texas last year, and a more modified and tested version of eczema. The symptoms include itching in the eyes. Oh, this is not just your irritating type of itching. This is like your eyes are on fire. But the disturbing catch to this ugly monster is that the itching intensifies for each eye movement that you do. And us fleshbags have plenty of eye movement. This would cause utter insanity since they would try to get rid of the itch. Of course, this led to a spike in suicide since the day that it first stuck. The first reported case was in Texas with a middle-class family, a mom 34, a dad 48, and a daughter 19 and a son 17. And the sight was one to behold. The pictures didn't make it any better. I almost hawked up my Ben & Jerry's. And these guys' eyes were mutilated and the skin around their eyes were puffed to the size of golf balls and extremely crusted and cracked like the outer of a crater. Apparently the daughter of the family got hit first, and she immediately locked herself in her room and just started going to town with any somewhat sharp object that she could find. I guess she finally found her relief when she finally crammed her eyeliner brush into her left socket so far that it poked her brain. She died of blood loss. For the son, whose eyes were the same, and fortunately still alive, he thought a good idea to relieve his itching was to literally try and remove his eyeball with the plastic spoon. He was successful. So when they found him, he was hunched over, blubbering endlessly about, "It's finally gone." And for the mother and father, they used a double-barrel shotgun for their tool of choice. The CDC took the son's eyes as experimentation and further research. What they found was still inconclusive. The only information would be that the eyes were like a fiery orange red and would secrete a strange oily substance that would only irritate around the eye, almost like somebody smeared poison ivy around their face. They had no clue on what caused the disease to be transmitted, origins, or anything. I think the most disturbing part is that the eyes would still be active, somehow, even in the socket or out, as in moving, looking around, or following someone's gaze. This of course made the CDC shit its hazmat underwear and quarantine the neighborhood they had found the family in. After that, more cases were found around that area, but they were put to bed quickly, which is another term for gunning down, bagging and incinerating the bodies after collecting samples for experimentation. Of course, and reasonably, this sparked a bit of paranoia in me for a little. I mean, I pissed myself crying like a third grader after feeling a little itch in my eye, but feeling like a moron after rubbing it a tad. Unfortunately, that was just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to seriously messed up things the government or bigwigs, whoever the hell is hiding from you guys. This is Clancy. If you don't hear from me, I'm either running or the CDC is balls deep in my house, rolling me up in my own garbage bag. Stay tuned. I've been scrounging through files like a kid going through a Hustler, and I think I came across quite a doozy. If you guys are history buffs, you probably remember Unit 731, and how the Japanese had a field day with experimentations on their own people. One of those experiments just so happened to be radiation. The radiation part was rather a secret testing that was rather, let's just say, it was unseen in the public eye of released documents. Let me tell ya, they were not only gruesome, but persistent as hell. So they did everything under the sun to create a new bioweapon, a bug bomb, or whatever gets your chemical warfare rocks off until they finally did it. But oh, was it something they were the least expecting. They couldn't control it. Now a quick science lesson. What happens when you mix bleach and ammonia together? If you said my last marriage, I would say you were one correct and clever bastard. Chlorine gas is what it makes. Now depending on the amount, it would do some things. If you got a low amount of the gas, you can expect some irritation to eyes, skin, and respiratory systems. But for large doses, you bite the dust in about half an hour. And those big brains thought, hey, what if we put that mixture with an incredibly potent strain of disease? Oh, and not just your little flu either. We're saying freaking anthrax, syphilis, and typhus. Now this idea and experiment couldn't have its scare factor without the including of radiation. And so they also added radioactive material that were ground and mashed until the particles were inside each concoction. The insanity at first was seen as a failure, due to how it seemed to not do much. But after a day or two, bluish-green lesions would swell to almost the size of basketballs. One of the doctors tried lancing it, and it resulted in him getting sprayed down by a weird greasy, bleach-smelling fluid. At first, it doesn't sound too bad, until the seconds after, the doctor puked his brains out and was coughing up blood. I mean, he puked everything up. They were horrified but excited since they finally made a chemical warfare tactic, but their greed overcame them. The patient that was being tested got up and just started stumbling about, bumping and spraying everything in the midst of the bleachy terror. A couple of days after, each and every single one of those guys in that tent that day were having if not bigger lesions everywhere. Chaos ensued, and everyone was either killing the monstrosities, each other, or themselves. Luckily, before it got too insane, some official did the suicide call of carpet bombing the entire camp. Of course, Ishii wanted to pursue even though he saw how messed up it was, but luckily, many advisors did their job and advised his crazy ass not to go for it. Unit 731 was a very despicable place where many atrocious acts were taking place. I apologize for all the families whose relatives were a part of such evilness. Nobody deserves to go through what happened, and I hope that all of those morbidly curious assholes are having a ball in hell. Shit, they might like it there for all I know, knowing how awful it will go just to find out something that's been keeping them up at night. Not gonna lie, reading this made me livid at how destructive and curious humanity tends to be sometimes. I mean, can't we just leave things be sometimes? Barry told me that he didn't look through this one, and when he saw the pictures, he also felt angered. I had to persuade him not to put the photos into the shredder. Sometimes I feel like a dickhead just reading through these. Like, why would somebody make these things? Just why? But then I remembered, it's only right to inform the public of the complete monstrosity that is a household name in our American society. Thank you all for taking the time to listen to what I had to say. Don't trust what the CDC tries to tell you. They're just one of the many cover-ups in our government system.